usually when I have these conversations with people, I've never actually met them in person. And I don't know how tall they are or anything, but you are the exception, Chris. We have seen each other and
And you
had a
have
beer
seen,
together.
you've seen how short I am.
Welcome to English with Lewis. Let's go!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to English with Lewis. And after having a little bit of small talk with my guest today, we're going to get started. We're going to cut to the chase. We're going to get to the point. So, Chris, hello, welcome.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. Well, thanks for joining me. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to be here. It's an absolute pleasure, right? Now, Chris, I think people will know you, they'll recognize you, but do us a favor and reintroduce yourself.
Okay. Sure. My name's Chris, and I'm from Oxford in the UK. But I haven't lived there for about 10 years now. I've lived in places like Japan, Peru, and well, I live in Spain now. But so yeah, 3 different countries. But yeah, I was born in Oxford, and I teach English online.
Ah, an English teacher from Oxford. It's perfect. The Oxford accent, is it like the Queen's English that most people want to learn, like the posh English?
I don't think it's that far. Like it's not too posh, but it definitely, I would say it's quite boring, very neutral. There's not really much going on. It's quite just sort of standard. I know people always say, "Oh, I don't have an accent," but I truly believe maybe in Oxford there's no accent. It's just very, I mean, some people do adopt the sort of London Cockney sometimes, and then other people kind of adopt the more West Country Bristolian accent. It kind of a bit of a blend, or it's very neutral. So you kind of get a bit of a mixed bag sometimes. And then there's lots of students as well, which kind of influence maybe, lots of foreign students that live there that kind of maybe influence the local culture a little bit because there's so many students. It's a very student city, so there's probably more students than locals really sometimes.
Interesting. So, as I said, we were having a little bit of small talk and a little bit of a catch up and a chat before this. And I was trying to remember and I was racking my brain. And I was like, is Chris from Oxford or Cambridge? And obviously, I was like, Chris, you're from Cambridge, right?
Oh God, nothing worse than calling someone from Oxford a Cambridgedonian. I'm not sure what they would be called, but someone from Cambridge. Confusing one of the two is a sin. Don't do it.
It's a rival. Is this because of the universities that Cambridge and Oxford are rivals?
Yeah, basically, I think it kind of stems from the university, and then it's sort of heightened with the boat race that happens every year. So there's a boat race between the two universities, and it's kind of like the World Cup for those two cities because they both don't have football teams. So the main thing in Oxford or Cambridge is boat racing or academics.
Ooh.
So yeah, exciting. Watching people row in the line, very thrilling.
Yeah, it sounds enthralling.
Yeah, not my cup of tea, but
No,
each
no.
to
Are
their
you
own.
not into boat racing?
Don't know. Yeah, it's not really. It is just going in. I don't mind doing it. It looks quite fun doing it, but watching it, it's a bit like F1. I don't really get why people watch it. Maybe they go quite fast, so maybe it's quite exciting, but still not my cup of tea. Prefer football or rugby at least.
I know what you mean. I can see that it doesn't float your boat. You said
Nice.
it's not your cup of tea. You're not into it. You're not keen on it. All of these are great ways to say that you don't like it. You're not interested in it. But you mentioned football. So do you support Oxford United?
No, 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 no.
What a
God, no.
terrible Oxfordian you are.
Yeah, although they have just gone up, so I think they're in the championship now.
Yeah, playing against
So
Leeds.
one away from the Premier League. So I should start supporting them. Jump on the bandwagon now.
Exactly. Nice expression to jump on the bandwagon. What does it mean?
Basically, when something is popular or something is in a good moment, you start to support that movement or you start to do that trend as well. And it's kind of, you don't always like it or you don't always do it, but now it's popular. You want to do it.
Like
I,
it's like you are a sheep, you're following the crowd, you're jumping on the bandwagon.
I did it recently. You know the Adidas Sambas. You know those trainers that have become very popular everywhere. So I definitely jumped on the bandwagon after about a year of seeing everyone wearing them. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a pair. And I was like, well, bit late, but whatever.
Never too late.
Never
Now,
too late.
anyway, I haven't really introduced this chat, of course, for those of you who have been watching and listening to these conversations. The main aim is for you to practice your English listening skills, learn some expressions, some phrasal verbs at the same time, and get to know the people behind the short videos and the longer videos, because many of you will have seen Chris in his shorts and his travels, asking people how well they speak English, which we'll get onto later. But usually when I have these conversations with people, I've never actually met them in person. And I don't know how tall they are or anything. But you are the exception, Chris. We have seen each other and
And you
had a
have seen,
beer together.
you've seen how short I am.
No, of course not. Chris, you're a giant.
Yeah, we met in Leeds one Christmas. Was it 2022?
I think so.
2023.
It's been like a year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah. It's good fun. Good fun meeting Leeds. Nice city. It was freezing, but I thought it was a very cool city. I think I've been there twice now, but that was the first time.
Okay.
I think I passed through again after. But it's a good pub as well. Nice little pub. It was kind of hidden down that alleyway, a very small street. But yeah, I liked it a
Exactly.
lot. I digged it.
Digged it, you liked it. And it was interesting because we were trying to make a video together where we were asking people in the street some different questions related to the IELTS speaking part of the exam. And I remember being really apprehensive and really nervous and not really knowing how to break the ice and ask people if they wanted to participate in a video. So how do you do it when you're traveling around different countries and cities and you're asking people to be on your YouTube video? What's the plan?
I think it's definitely a lot easier abroad. Like if you are in a different country, let's say Brazil, the one I was just filming in, it's definitely a lot easier because people either have zero English or they quite like the challenge. So you can just say, "Do you speak English?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, why?" They're sort of curious. Whereas I think in the UK, when we were filming in Leeds, people were very skeptical. They were very sort of suspicious. What are we trying to sell? What do we want from them? But in
Got
reality,
no money, leave me alone.
yeah, just go away. But actually, we just wanted their time and their voice, really, and their thoughts. But people are a lot more suspicious, I think, in the UK. And also, I don't really think like making content or like being a content creator is really a thing in the UK, whereas like in other countries, it's definitely way more common. So it's more accepted.
Well, interesting.
Don't you
So,
think? Or
yeah, I have no idea about the being a content creator in the UK. I imagine like there are still very famous YouTubers, but maybe there are fewer people who go around the street and they ask you questions. And I think English people in general, we are very skeptical and we're not very trusting with people who kind of grab our attention in the street. For example, if I'm walking around the city center and somebody's like, "Oh, can I just have a moment?" Nine, no, maybe like 99% of the time, I'll just say, "Oh, sorry, thanks." And I'll say sorry and I'll say thanks, even though they didn't do anything to me
yeah.
and I didn't give them anything. It's like, "Oh, sorry, thanks, bye."
Yeah, just the awkward Britishness, the British behavior. No, just kind of like, I don't know. We seem to sort of fumble through conversations, I think, especially when it's someone new. Whereas, like, I met an American guy who's also kind of teaching. He's teaching, but also does comedy as well in Brazil. And he seems a lot more very smooth with how his interactions with new people and stuff. So I was very jealous, like, just sort of, he was sort of just don't know, going from group to group and being able to just interview people. And I was like, oh, I was more sort of distant or more awkward, but I made it work.
I guess it's just a British thing that
Yeah.
it can be endearing at the same time. It can make people like you because we're like, oh, sorry, thanks, bye.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. That's my interaction with strangers on the street, basically.
Uh-huh. Now, going back to you and your experience and how you started becoming a teacher and making content for YouTube, you said you lived in Japan, Peru, Spain at the moment. Where did all of this start? Like, why did you move abroad and why did you start teaching English?
I started teaching English to live abroad, so that was the main
Uh-huh.
reason. So I thought, how can I travel forever? And I thought, well, every country needs an English teacher, so that was my idea. And I had a friend whose sister was doing this in Turkey and Seville, so I kind of copied that, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And then I would just apply for jobs everywhere, and it just happened to be that Japan was the first place that got back to me. So I was like, okay, I'll go. And the money was pretty good, and they paid for the visa. So it was like, okay, I'll go somewhere new. I have no idea what it's like. So it was very fun. Everything was fresh and new. And then during the pandemic, I was actually in Peru, and my school closed for 2 weeks. And I thought, okay, no problem, 2 week holiday.
Mm.
And then it turned into 2 months and 3 months. And then I started to ask the embassy, like, is there a flight for me to go back to the UK? Maybe I need to leave because the school was not opening again and I had no job. So I started teaching online, and then it went from teaching online to making videos online, and kind of just spiraled from there, TikTok and then Instagram and YouTube, just little by little, really. So it's kind of organic in a way. I didn't really sort of plan to do it. It just kind of happened through boredom and then necessity, and just one thing led to another. And here I am.
But here you are 4 years later.
Yeah, it's crazy. 4 years later, huh?
And
Mad.
I know I've mentioned this with people in the past that I regret not starting posting videos earlier because I only really started doing it for myself 2 years ago. So I regret not starting as soon as the lockdown happened during the pandemic, but of course before then as well. What about you? Do you have any regrets thinking like, ah, oh, if only I'd have done this 10 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. I wish I had started before. I know it's something I did think about for in terms of YouTube, but more like traveling, like vlogging. I thought, oh, that'd be fun because I used to watch a few people do it. There's one famous guy. I think his name's on YouTube, abroad in Japan or something. And he basically made Japanese videos about his experience in Japan as a foreigner. And I always thought, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, even now his videos are really cool. And I wanted to do it, but just it seemed such a leap from no sort of knowledge of filming, editing to making a nice YouTube channel. Like I had no idea how to bridge that gap. But then when TikTok arrived, it allows me to sort of practice on the app because you have everything in there. And that gave me the confidence to then take the next step by downloading a software. And then, you know, little by little, you kind of get to YouTube. And so it's unfortunate, but I mean, I think I would have never started because I was a bit sort of intimidated by film editing or edition. So yeah. How about you? Did you always
It's
you had some
interesting
knowledge?
as well. I had zero knowledge and I'm very bad, or at least I thought I was very bad at editing. And I think I've only been able to get started because there were apps that made everything easier. So then no
Definitely.
longer need to be an expert editor in order to post like good content. Of course, the more time you spend studying it and practicing new techniques, the better you get at it. But it's like everything. If you don't actually practice, you don't improve. You can
Yeah,
read up on
exactly.
it as much as possible and watch videos as much as you want, but until you actually put it into practice, then you're not going to get anywhere with this.
Like English. Like English.
There you go.
And I can see where you're going. And I agree. I agree. It's, you know, it's you practice, you learn by doing, right? So you have to sometimes just be a bit rubbish at what you're doing, and then you will get better at it. Like my first YouTube video was horrendous. I think I edited it on Windows Movie Maker or something. Like it kept crashing every 2 minutes because it couldn't handle the weight of the microbytes or whatever they are. So it was terrible. I didn't cut out any pauses either, so I just paused and then said something else, and then something else, and it was horrendous. I was just staring at the camera. I think I got like 10 views, but you know,
is it still there on your channel? Can people find it?
That one's gone. I got rid of that one because I read that it actually was detrimental for my channel because when people watch it, they don't watch it for long, so then the metrics are quite bad. So, but on TikTok, I have everything. So I left everything still on there. So you can go back to 2020 and see the first video I ever made. Because I don't think it doesn't really bother. It doesn't really matter in terms of the algorithm or anything. But on YouTube, I read it does. So I got rid of it.
And now speaking about your YouTube videos, recently you've been traveling and making videos at the same time. And as I said earlier, asking people if they know how to speak English. What is your plan moving forward with the type of content you want to make? Is it traveling and making videos at the same time? Or what have you got in mind?
Yeah, a bit of both really. I think I quite like doing them because when you meet people in the street and you interview them, it does give me a bit of a rush. Like it is quite exciting, and you get to meet different types of people. But also, I find it useful because I'm teaching words or phrases without just having a whiteboard and being like, "This is an apple. This is a laptop." It's more like, look at these people, see if they know what it is, and then I'm going to confirm if it's right or wrong. So if you're watching, hopefully it's sort of the mix between entertaining. Hopefully you find it entertaining, but also educational. And that's kind of the bridge that I'm always trying to bridge. Always the bridge I'm trying to bridge.
Why not?
No, it's always the two things I'm trying to put together, make it entertaining and also educational. So that's kind of the idea between that behind that video. But I also want to make some stuff just by myself. I find it quite fun to use green screens and stuff like that. So I'm still going to do stuff at home, but maybe once a month, maybe go to a new city, especially in Europe, it's very easy to get around. But when I was in South America, I kind of did a couple of places at the same time. And also, I try to pit different cities against each other. So like Rio versus Sao Paulo, who speaks better, to make it a bit of a rivalry, or maybe to stoke the rivalry that's already there. But yeah, so I think I've still got a video about Rio to come out. I need to finish that one. And then I'm kind of thinking maybe the Balkan countries. So I might go to like maybe Bosnia or something, or maybe a bit further over like Bulgaria and see what it's like there, because it's very different to any other place that I've been before.
So if anybody is watching this and you are based in Bulgaria, let us know in the comments and prepare yourself. Start studying, because soon you're going to be tested to see if you can speak English.
Be ready, or well, be ready, and then also let me stay on your sofa. That'll be great.
Perfect. That's it. Now, what were the highlights of your trip in Brazil and Argentina, where you've been recently?
I think probably in Argentina, for example, definitely the people, so friendly and stuff. It just seemed like they were very open to making new connections, and it was very easy to speak with them. And in terms of Brazil, I think just it's a different way of life on the beach. Everything is just about having a good time. There's no sort of, there are people rushing around and doing stuff, that's true, but you don't really get a sense of that. You can definitely just go with the flow and enjoy the beach culture that they have there, which is great. People playing football on the beach, or there's music and nice food. Just you can buy cheese on the beach, which is lovely.
Interesting. Strange. It's not usually what I'd fancy if I'm sunbathing on the beach. So usually I go for like a lollipop, a watermelon, but cheese.
Yeah, it actually is really nice. It's like sort of halloumi. It's quite a hard one. So yeah, they kind of grill it and it's lovely. Nice little snack. But I get what you mean. You want something a bit more refreshing normally.
Exactly. I mean, it's like when you're in the bathroom and the cheese is looking at itself in the mirror, and what does it say? It says, "Hello, me." Oh dear. I've tried a couple of really
Dad's
bad
jokes.
dad jokes on this channel, and then the person I'm telling it to, I'm like, okay, how are they going to react?
There's no bad dad jokes. They're just dad jokes. They have an audience. That's me.
Exactly. Excellent. Now, anyway, moving on from that, today it's a little bit shorter than usual. So we're going to keep this to about half an hour. So now we're going to move on to asking each other some random questions. Um, just random conversation questions that you might be asked in an English speaking exam as well. So we can be the perfect models to follow. Maybe, hopefully. Let's
We'll
find
see.
out.
No pressure.
All right, I'll kick us off with the first question. Chris, if you could instantly learn any skill, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it would be learning to fly because I
Okay,
am
interesting.
I'm petrified of flying. I'm terrified of flying. So I think if I actually knew how to fly, it would probably help me with that because you hear noises while you're flying and you think, oh God, that's the engine falling off, or just there's like a bang and you're like, oh God, but just the wheels are coming up. It's just normal sounds, but I panic. So I think if I could, I would love to learn how to fly. But again, how can you learn if you're scared? It's but if I could learn it instantly, then yeah, definitely flying.
Right.
So yeah,
Wow. Yeah. You could be like Superman, who knows?
well that'd be better. Yeah, if I could teleport, that would be perfect. But maybe in a couple of years. Um, I thought this one's quite interesting actually. It says for you, Lewis, what's the most interesting or unusual job you've ever had?
Hmm. Well, I haven't had that many like weird and wonderful jobs. I started working when I was like 13 or 14, as this is not child labor or
Hmm.
slavery. But it's very
Normal.
common in the UK to start with a paper round. So basically, I'd finish work and then I'd get my bike and I'd go to like the post office and I'd
Hmm.
pick up about 30 or 40 newspapers and then I'd cycle around and go leaving the newspapers in each house's like letterbox. And it was a kind of standard job. And I think I got paid like £10 a week. And this was a lot of hours.
Impressive.
It was like 5 hours per week. So the pay wasn't good.
As a 16-year-old, it's quite, it's not when you're 16, what do you need to buy? I don't know, a can of Coke.
Yeah, sweets, constant
Yeah.
loads of sweets. But yeah, I think that's the only really, let's say, interesting job I've had. Well, actually, no, no. All right. I do have an interesting job. When I was at university, after my first year of uni, usually people go out and they party a lot, they have a good time. And I was selling like tickets for nightclub events.
Hmm.
And after those 9 months of experience, one of my old colleagues told me, like, oh, I'm going to go to Mallorca this summer and I'm going to live there and work there. So do you want to come and we could go to Magaluf together?
Ooh, very nice.
So he twisted my arm and convinced me to go. So I went there, a one-way ticket to Palma de Mallorca, but really we were going straight to Magaluf and only Magaluf. And I got there and I started working outside of a bar, telling people like, "Hey guys, you want a shot? Do you want a drink? Do you want to come and have a good time?"
Were you good
So
at
I
it?
I was all right. Um, it's basically like going up to people and asking them if they want to be on your YouTube video.
There's there's
But
there's an incentive though. There's some sort of
exactly.
free drink involved. Maybe I should do that. That might make it more interesting. If I say, "Hey, do you speak English?" Yes. Okay. Well, here's a few questions, and I'll give you a shot after.
I think you're onto something here. This has got to work. But yeah, it was fun at the time, this job, but after 2 months, I was fed up of it. I was sick of it because it was just constantly being out, speaking to people,
Mm,
needing to drink a lot as well.
yeah.
And from that moment, now I don't like clubs. I don't like nightclubs at all. I prefer to be outside having a drink in the sun and a barbecue is much better.
Yeah, I think it seems a little bit overwhelming. I've never been to Magaluf, but I've passed through it, um, going to the other side of Mallorca, and it does look like it's full on. It's something you do with your friends when you're younger, when you have more energy.
100%. It's full on, it's intense. Yeah. If you're 18 or 19 and you want an experience, then by all means, go ahead.
You're 23, maybe
Yeah,
don't,
maybe not.
just question it. You might be over the hump.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Now, next question, a classic one that any examinator or English teacher will surely ask you if they want you to start practicing some conditionals. So, Chris,
Mhm.
if you won the lottery, let's say €1 million, what would you do with the money?
Ooh, if I had $1 million or pounds, I would probably buy a property. That would be something I would go for first, maybe in Mallorca or Minorca, the smaller version of Mallorca, just because if, now I live in Barcelona, so if I could, I would love to just pop to Mallorca every weekend and go to the beach because it's very close, 20-minute flight, maybe 30 minutes. The only thing is that it's quite expensive, especially now, June, July, August. Off season, it's not too bad, but yeah, the hotels and Airbnbs are crazy expensive right now. But if I had my own place, if I had $1 million, then
Mhm.
I could just pop there whenever I liked. So that's what I would probably do, something like that, some place to escape the busy city.
I mean, it sounds like a good plan, and Mallorca and Menorca are both beautiful. So if you had the opportunity to pop there whenever you wanted to, it'd be like a dream. And you use the verb pop. We use this a lot in British English. What does it mean?
Yeah, I was talking to my mum earlier about this. It basically means if you, for example, if you pop somewhere, it means that you go somewhere quickly or you do something quickly. Because you can also say like, I'm going to pop to the shop. You're going to go to the shop quickly, or um, you can also say, I'll pop round to visit you. Basically, I'm going to visit you quickly, or pop in. I'll pop in also means to visit someone, but briefly. So you're not going to stay too long. Although the the time is not defined really. It could be 10 minutes, could be half an hour. It depends on your perspective of short, I suppose. But it means to do something quickly.
The great example that you used is to pop to the shop. I'm just going to
Yeah,
pop out. I'm going to pop to the shop. I'm going to pop to the pub. So to pop is to go somewhere quickly, basically.
yeah. Used all the time.
Exactly. Perfect. All right, let's do one more each. So the ball is in your court, Chris. After you.
Let's see. What's the most memorable trip you've ever taken? Now we're talking about nice places like the beach. What's the most memorable trip you've ever taken?
Okay. Well, there are quite a lot, to be honest. Because I've been to Argentina. I will remember going to the waterfalls. What was it called? Iguazu.
It was
And that was beautiful. And also going right to the south of the country to the end of the world, Ushuaia. And I
mm,
also hopped to see the glacier as well, Perito Moreno, I think it's called. So this was a really memorable time for me because I was living in Argentina for like 5 months and I
oh
was
wow.
still kind of young. This was a couple of years after going to Mallorca, and I had obviously matured by then.
Hmm.
Um, but I'd say hmm, the most memorable trip, if I had to pick one, is probably going to some islands which are very close to Bali, and they're called the Gili Islands.
Ooh, very nice, very exotic.
And if you're in Bali, it's like 20 minutes boat. And when you're there, there are three little islands, and they're tiny. So you have the real authentic island life where you can just walk around from one side of the island to the other. You can get a bike and just cycle around the island in 20, 30 minutes. And I went there with my girlfriend. We went snorkeling as well and saw like turtles. All
Oof.
of the bars were very like hippie and laid back and easygoing. So I remember it being like the perfect getaway if you want to escape from civilization and just go there and be on the island with
Off
really
the
nice
grid.
hotel. You're off the grid. You're just relaxing, kicking back. So yeah, if I have to choose one, the most memorable trip or place that I'd like to go back to the most are the Gili Islands near Bali in Indonesia.
Wow, sounds fantastic. Chef's kiss for that one.
Hopefully, I've described that well, and
No,
your mind
yeah.
is like, oh, Gili Islands.
Yeah, I think you've sold it. You've sold it. You've got your selling skills working from your time in Magaluf, selling the bars and now
Exactly.
selling the Gili Islands.
Um, there's actually one very embarrassing story that I have to tell now that we're speaking about my time working in a bar in Magaluf. And the whole thing is about grabbing people's attention and
Hmm.
making them stop. So I like to be creative sometimes. And one thing I did was go inside behind the bar and I grabbed a few pieces of ice, like an ice cube.
Yeah,
And I walked up to a group of people, and as smoothly as I could, I threw the ice cubes on the floor. And then I said, now I've broken the ice. Do you want to come in for some shots?
nice, nice. I would just throw them at them directly. Like, oh, broken the ice. But
Exactly. So I'm confessing all these embarrassing things. So, Chris, my final question for you is, do you have any embarrassing stories or moments where you were just thinking like, oh no?
probably the most embarrassing one that comes to mind is when I was teaching in Peru, and I used to take the bus after, and so did all my class because everyone takes the same one. There's a few buses, but everyone has to wait in the same area. And in Peru, you have to hustle for the bus in terms of it doesn't sort of stop and let you on calmly. You have to kind of be quite confident and jump on. So I was kind of in between, is this the right one or not? And I kind of tried to jump on the bus, but as it was sort of driving off at the same time, it was still rolling because you have to kind of just hop on and it keeps going. And it like sort of closed its doors because it didn't really, I didn't look like I was going to jump on, but I was. I was sort of in between. And so the doors closed and I fell back, and then my whole class were watching me, and I was like, oh God, I'm just sort of laying on the floor in some random street in Peru, and I'm supposed to have authority, and it's just gone because everyone's watched me fall over. See, that one comes to mind. That one springs to mind. So
That's
yeah,
maybe the moment when the school decided to close. It
probably,
wasn't the
yeah. They were like,
pandemic.
no, it probably wasn't. It wasn't even close. It's like, no, we don't want you back. That's enough.
So
Enough of
maybe
Mr.
this
Bean.
is the moment that started everything.
Yeah, it's like a sliding door moment, right? As they say.
That's it. That's it. A sliding door moment. Could you just do us a favor and explain what does it mean?
Like sliding door moment is when something happens to you and it's it pushes your life in a different direction, and it could have been completely different. So I think there's a famous movie where there's two scenarios where the woman gets on the train and then she doesn't get on the train, and because she does get on the train, her life is completely different. But it also shows how her life would have been if she didn't get on the train. So kind of like how things could have been different, basically.
Okay. Well, this is it. This is your sliding door moment. Trying to get on a bus and then falling back and having all your class laughing at you.
And
But it worked out well in the end.
it all worked out fine, just about.
Awesome. Good. Well, I think we'll call it a day there. We'll end there because Chris needs to eat. He hasn't eaten all day, and
I'm
he has another
starving.
meeting after this. Um, so, Chris, what are you gonna have? What are you gonna eat?
I'm gonna stick something in the air fryer. I think. Gonna go for some sort of wraps. I've got some meat and some onions. I'm gonna sort of do some um, minced meat wraps, I suppose, with veggies and and a bit of spicy sauce.
Okay.
But the air fryer's gonna do all the
Sriracha?
work, really.
Sriracha or another one?
It is. I think it's a bit of a rip off of sriracha. It's not that one, but it's the Spanish version of it. So it's good.
Excellent. A rip-off version, a cheaper version than the original, but I'm sure it's delicious. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's amazing. You'll be eating it, and then you'll be doing what I did earlier with a chef's kiss.
All right.
Perfect. So, thank you once again, Chris, for joining, and enjoy your meal. It's been a pleasure getting to ask you some questions so people can find out a little bit more about you. And hopefully, people know now that you are an Oxford United fan, right?
Oh yeah, Die Hard. Die Hard.
You are jumping on the bandwagon.
I was gonna say Bamos United, but let's go United. I don't know. Come on, United. Come on, Oxes.
Come on, Oxford.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for having me, Lewis, and thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. So do not forget to like the video. If you have any questions for either of us, then you can let us know in the comments. And yeah, maybe in the future we'll be back for another version and we can continue speaking about our most embarrassing moments and our sliding door moments too. So thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.